No, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and I welcome you to my podcast, where we are going to be talking about professional wrestling for a good couple of hours. That's what we do every week right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. In fact, we record the Mr. Warren Hayes Show live on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. East, 7 p.m. Eastern. Why do I always say 9 p.m.? But it's 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern. We're not doing another take. We're leaving that in. 7 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. We'd love to have you if you want to come hang out and see what happens on stream. The things that are edited out of this final product that you're listening to. You know, there's stuff that happens on stream. There's a nice little community that exists there. If you want to come and join in, it's a good time. The Mr. Warren Hayes Show community also extends to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, so you should join that as well. But you join live. It's a good time. You see the recording. You see all the nonsense. You're able to say, "Oh, he edited that out. Oh, he didn't. He kept that in." So on and so forth. So you can do that. And but listen, if you're listening to this on demand, that's tremendous as well. Subscribe and subscribe to the channel, like this on YouTube, and if and 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings on Spotify help as well. All of these things help grow the channel tremendously. I appreciate it in advance. If you do it, thank you very much. And maybe you're like, "Oh, Warren, I've already done it. I've done it months ago. Yeah, blah blah blah. If I could do it again, I'd do it. If I could do it a second time, I'd do it again." I know you would, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Sitting through all of this every week. Outside of that, listen, thankfully, we had Forbidden Door to talk about. AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door crossover show that happened this weekend. That's what we're going to be talking about. A couple of news items, but that's mostly what we're going to be breaking down. And I'm very thankful for that. Now, listen, if you listen to the flagship over at the Voices of Wrestling network, if you listen to the instant reaction that happened for patrons on Sunday evening, you already know that I've broken this down with Rich Craich, and my opinions here aren't really changing. So if you've heard them once, you'll probably hear them again, but that's okay, right? That's cool, because you want to get a double dose. You want to get some double dipping of Warren Hayes. Why wouldn't you? That's tremendous. You want a little more of that. There's a lot of Warren to spread around. Why wouldn't you want more of it? I subbed in at the Instant Reaction show for the flagship. Joe Lanza couldn't make it, unfortunately. His beloved dog Madeline passed away. Our condolences out to him. But I was thankful that Rich reached out to me to make this happen, and I think we did a pretty good job. And we're going to do a good job again tonight. So strap in, folks. It's a big one, per usual. Let's get to it. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's get into it. No, wait, hang on. Before we jump into the heart, the crux of the matter, and we actually talk about news, I just want to take a minute here to sort of pat myself on the back. I wanted to, it's something that I hate to do. I hate taking a moment to give myself a good old pat on the back and a self high five, as Diamond Dallas Page once taught us to do. No. But it's something that I take no pleasure in. I take no pleasure in, showing off how astute I am in regards to this pro wrestling business, into this pro wrestling, this bozo sport that we're into, that we call our hobby, that we put so much passion and enjoyment into. Here I am in this position right now where I feel I have to pat myself on the back, even though I'm telling myself that I shouldn't. And the reason for that is because Triple H, this past week, on an episode of the Pat McAfee Show, talked about WWE, how WWE's content is not a sport, but instead a movie or a television show about a sport. Let's read this quote, shall we? Our fan base is so ravenous for content. There is nothing else that episodically airs. I say this a lot. We're not a sport. We're a movie about a sport or a TV show about a sport. The interest of all the other things happening are just as great as what happens in the ring. People are so interested in not only those storylines, but who are the real people behind those storylines, the drama behind it. If you're younger or want to buy into that much, the drama of the storylines. Like, he's kind of spitting out words. But what I want to focus on right here, right now, is this idea that WWE, he said it himself, something that I have said here in the past on this show, and I've been trying to, push into your brains. What did I say? Say WWE is like a show about pro wrestling, but it's not a show. It's not a pro wrestling show. It's a show about pro wrestling. And the boy, our man, Papa H, said it himself. We're not a sport. We're a movie or a television show or a movie about a sport. So what have I been saying? What have I been telling you all? The wrestling's not important. The wrestling's not the centerpiece. It's not even about wrestling. It's a show about wrestling. You understand the nuance here, right? It's like WWE is not a pro wrestling show. It's like Glow, the Netflix show, which is a show about professional wrestling. It's like Heels, with Green Arrow, whatever his name is. I'm drawing a blank. Same situation. He's like, it's a show about professional wrestling. Well, WWE is no longer a pro wrestling show, folks. It is a show about professional wrestling. The head of creative for the company said so on an interview on a national podcast, whatever the hell McAfee does. I don't even know. On the Pat McAfee show, a lot of people watch it. That's the point. And I have been hammering this home for so long now. And I'm surprised that no one is picking up on this more than it is, because this is an admission. It's a mask off 100% admission that whatever WWE puts out is not a pro wrestling show. So I don't even know why we should continue then to cover it, since Paul doesn't even see it like in its sports element anymore. He just sees it as it's a TV show. It's a movie. God, how long did Vince, and thank you chat for pulling that up, how long has Vince tried to convince us we make movies, pal? How long has he been trying to do that? Well, it lives on in the spirit of Triple H, his son-in-law, continuing the tradition of making sure that wrestling fans understand that this show, that WWE is not just, it's not pro wrestling. It's a show about it. It's people pretending to be pro wrestlers. And you can't have a better example than this than NXT, where everyone looks like a reality television star, just two beautiful, handsome, charismatic to be, and they toss him in the ring and they're like, yeah, do wrestling moves. But the wrestling's not important. We have the proof here. It's not even at the core of the programming. At the core of the programming is them making movies, pal. It's a television show about a sport. It's a television show about pro wrestling, but it's not pro wrestling. So, I mean, I gotta follow what the head of creative is saying here. I gotta adopt his way of thinking here. If he says my show's not wrestling, okay, pal, you got it. Your show's not wrestling, which also means that all of the WWE fans who try to argue with me in regards to whatever stuff I didn't like and how it's not pro wrestling, I can tell them, look, your figurehead, your all knowing and perfect Paul Levesque said it himself. We're a show about a sport. We're a movie about a sport. We're not pro wrestling. We're a movie about pro wrestling. Like The Iron Claw, like The Wrestler, like No Holds Barred. Anyway, it brings me no pleasure. It brings me no pleasure to say I told you so. It brings me no pleasure to say I've been seeing this for years. Brings me no pleasure. Or does it? It kind of does. In one of the sole news items of the week, Dominic Dijak on June 27 hit the social media stuff and announced that his WWE contract was not going to be renewed. He posted a letter that he had typed out. He took a picture of a letter instead of doing like a notes app thing, or maybe he has the blue check mark and he can write fucking, he can write novels on his Twitter account if he wants. I don't know. And instead of going down that route, he hit the Microsoft Word, or maybe the Open Office, or maybe Google Docs, or maybe Writely. I don't think Writely's around. I think Google bought Writely, right? Anyway, and he pulled out. He wrote a letter, and he took a picture of the letter, signed it, and posted that on social media. WordPad is another good one, or Text Edit, or WordPerfect 5.1. There you go. There's a throwback. Shout out to anyone. Shout out to everyone who's used WordPerfect 5.1 in their life. We are kindred spirits if you have. Here's the letter. I'm going to read the letter for you, okay? That he posted on social media. They took a picture. Anyway, here's the truth. This is how it starts. It's not me. We're reading the letter. This is how it starts. Not hello, fans. Here's the truth. Straight to the point, and you got to appreciate that. No beating around the bush. We're not trying to give it. He's not trying to give us the old rigmarole here. We're going straight to the point. Here's the truth. WWE never negotiated with me. We attempted to negotiate, and they stonewalled us. I wonder who us is and who we is. I don't think he refers to himself in the third person, right? Like the final boss. Let's continue. They never made me a single offer. See, it becomes we and then me. I don't know what that means. You need a proofreader. Maybe you should have typed it in Grammarly. Okay. See, it's a slow news week, folks. I'm trying to work with what I got here. They never made me a single offer. Then they informed me they would not renew my contract at the 11th hour. 2 months ago, I was in one of the best matches in NXT history and a top match of WrestleMania weekend. On that day, a top executive in WWE told me I was crushing it. I was slated to feud for the NXT title, but I got called up to Raw instead. I consistently outperformed everyone's expectations, especially throughout 2023 and early 2024. I never complained about anything or was difficult to work with. I tirelessly pitched ideas to anyone who would listen. As recently as the day before, I was notified. I never once missed a booking, and I was injured one time in 7 years for 3 months. I'm thankful, disappointed, but also excited. This has lit a fire under me to relentlessly prove myself to the world. All I ever wanted was a fair shot, and now I have the opportunity to go out and take it. That's enough talk. It's time to do or die, Jack. Cute. That last part was not in the letter. That was, me editorializing. My last day under a WWE contract is June 28, 2024. He drops the email for bookings and interviews. Get ready to feast your fucking eyes, says he. Donovan Dijak. Well, listen, that to me, when I read that, I was like, the man's a little bitter. Don't blame him. If what he's putting forward here is true, we have no real way of verifying it, and WWE's not going to comment on this either. But there's I think there'd be reason to be bitter. You're being told, yeah, you're doing great. We got a spot for you. You're crushing it. We're drafting you to Raw. And then poof, you get stonewalled. No more negotiations. Nobody wants it anymore. And you're like, okay, this sucks. And he's absolutely 100% right to be like annoyed at this. He really is. Again, assuming that is all true, but again, I don't see why. And the stuff that he pulls up in his letter, where he says like he consistently outperformed everyone's expectations in 2023 and 2024. I would also agree. I think there was a lot of people who considered that Dijak had become a cornerstone of NXT. To the degree he had become somewhat of a gatekeeper, where he'd have these great matches with up and coming talent, and he's had other matches as well. He's with Ilya and stuff like that, and which is fine. But I do think a lot of people were a little surprised because of how quality the work was, and if we're to believe that he was indeed that he was indeed a pleasure to work with, not difficult, never complaining, being a good soldier and whatnot, and he's let go. You're like, okay, well, this is what I say when I tell you, WWE doesn't really care about the work ultimately. It doesn't matter how good of a pro wrestler you are. It's just, do you fit in our plans? Do you fit in this grand creative vision that Paul Levesque has set up for all WWE fans? Can you be a part of this show about pro wrestling? Is this something that is possible? And clearly there's no place for Dijak on this show about pro wrestling, which I kind of think is a shame. And it's not, look, he's been there for 7 years. He's been with the company since 2017. He was in Ring of Honor beforehand. Then he was in NXT And, you could feel like they did some start stop stuff with him. And, he was involved with Keith Lee trying to rekindle their feuds from the indies. And then from summer 2021 to summer 2020 to March 2021, he was T-Bar in the Retribution stable, right? And then he returned to NXT, and they just dropped the gimmick, and he was Dijak once again. Not Donovan Dijak, I should say, because he was Donovan Dijakovic, if you remember, right? It was Donovan Dijakovic, which we all had a good chuckle at, because we were like, no fucking way, Vince is letting a guy come up to the main roster with a last name of Dijakovic. Like, there's no way that's happening. So he did he did the thing, and he went back to NXT as Dijak, and I thought he was on a tremendous run, and I thought he was so useful to all of those super green NIL kids down there who are just looking for someone to be able to lean on, to grow their to grow their skill set. Like, he was the perfect guy to do it, right? He was absolutely the perfect guy to try and pull that off. And unfortunately, well, it didn't quite turn out that way. And I think it's a shame. But now he's gone. He's in the indies, or at least, he's a free agent at the very least, right? At the very soul of it, he's a free agent. So the question we have here, which is always the question in these days, and I think it's a great question to ask, where does Donovan Dijak land? Where does he end up? That's the big question, right? Now, he's already taken some indie bookings, right? He's replacing Leo Rush on a show, and because Rush got injured. We're going to talk about that in a bit. So he's basically he's basically a free agent. Where would he end up? Of course, the initial thing is always, oh well, it's got to be AEW, right? I don't know. I don't know if AEW is a landing spot for him. Like this, I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on. They're rebuilding a lot of stuff. I think they're going to take a chance on a recently released WWE wrestler. Again, we'll talk about that later. But here's the weird thing: is that I think his timing is off. I think his timing is not there. Where you have on one hand, because on one hand you're like the roster, the men's roster in AEW right now is absolutely going through a reconstruction, rebuilding phase. Call it what you want, but they're definitely trying to put things back together into something cohesive, and push the right people, right? And there's so many people vying for spots. I don't know if you do that. But on the other hand, man, I mean, a guy his size who can work the way he does, you kick the tires on him at the very least, right? You bring him in on a collision and you have him, lose to, I don't know, Big Bill or whatever, a guy you want to keep moving forward, but it's weird. I don't know what you do with him, if that makes sense. But you kind of kick the tires. You kind of see how it goes, right? You got to. But ultimately, I don't think it's a spot for him. I think if he does come into AEW, I think he might be lost in the shuffle. I think TNA's a good spot for him. And look, if he's hitting the ground running and he wants to expand his horizons and he wants to really put himself to work, New Japan or any Japanese promotion in that for that matter would just drool having a guy, like I said, his size with that kind of work rate. They'd love to have him. Love to have him. They'd trip over themselves to sign him. Even if it's not New Japan. Noah these days, pretty fucking hot. Noah's back, baby. I don't know if you knew this. Pro wrestling Noah's back there, back on the map. If you want to send him in there, and you want to make him go against Keno, you want to make him go against Kitamiya or Kaito Kiyomiya, right? Because you got Masa Kitamiya, right? Which would be tremendous. Or you just have him challenge for the GHC title, right? It's like there's a lot of possibilities for him there as well. And I think that the problem with New Japan is kind of linked to AEW, where they're in a rejuvenation phase right now. You know, I'm really excited to preview the G1 with y'all, because I think the G1 this year is going to be tremendous under the theme of rejuvenation, if you ask me. So he might end up just being lost in the shuffle there as well. I think the timing of him hitting the bricks sucks. I think a year ago, 2 years ago, you know, when the fucking Retribution thing fell apart, if he had hit the bricks then, I think he would have been in a better spot to find I think he would have been in a better spot to find the best spot. But listen, look, it's an exciting chapter for him moving forward. I think it's great. I'm excited. You know, I like him. I like Dijak. I think he's fine. You know, I'm not gonna scream to the heavens and demand that he gets signed places. You know, he's going to fall on his feet is the point, and wherever he's going to be used, he's going to be a let me put that. Let me say that in another way. If he gets signed anywhere else but AEW, I think he will be put to work in the to his strengths. I think he's going to come across as a superstar. I think it will be to his benefit. I really don't think AEW is the spot for him. I really don't. But good on him. Good on him. And like Chad pointed out, you know, it was a little funny because he was very, rah for WWE. That, you know, and it's fine too because, you know, you're working for them. They're giving you gobs of money, and you want to be a good soldier, a team player. You know, they can't all be Bronson Reeds complaining about their spots, or Andrade vague tweeting that he's angry, or newly added Dakota Kai to this list, who seems to be upset about her push. Which, listen, all wrestlers are upset about their push. Unless you're like really, really, really the tippy top guy. And even there, you're probably upset more often because you're at the top and you want to make sure you stay at the top. Like, all wrestlers are upset about their pushes. Believe me. That's just a constant. They all think they can main event WrestleMania or Wembley Stadium or the Tokyo Dome. They all do. Anyway, tremendous stuff from Dijak coming to us. I'm convinced. He seems to want to hit the ground running, and I respect that. I respect that 100%. He's not sitting around waiting for a call. It's like, no, I'm hitting the ground running. Got to rebuild this. And he's come from the indies. He knows the grind. It's not a problem for him. And I'm sure there's a lot of indies in the United States who are excited at the prospect of being able to bring this guy in. Convinced. All right, we are going to now move on to reviewing AEW Forbidden Door 2024. The event happened on June 30th, 2024 at the UBS Arena in Elmont, New York, Long Island. The most magical place on earth, I am told. WrestleTix has the attendance set at 11,477 people in the building, at least distributed tickets. I would dare say that AEW has to be pretty happy about that number. I think they have to be satisfied with that number. They got to be more than satisfied. I think they're happy. A very good gate for a pay-per-view. And in the UBS Arena, I believe this is the highest gate that they've recorded in that building so far. And as you all know very well, how woeful the attendance is for their television, for the weekly television tapings. This has got to be a little bit of this has got to feel good. A little bit of a confidence booster here. Let's be honest. There's a lot of good in this number. They got to be happy about it. And I know I would in the circumstances. This is, however, the least attended of the three Forbidden Doors. So, there's always that caveat. But if you look in the current context of 2024 and AEW's attendance woes, well, good job, sport. Not bad at all. So this was okay. So this was a very good show. I thought it was a very good show, and I say that unenthusiastically, which is weird, right? I find it strange that I'm sitting here saying, "Oh, this was a very good show," and I'm kind of, stoic about it. No, this was a very good show, because I think that AEW for the longest time when it comes to their pay-per-views put us in a position where we believed that these shows would be great every time, where we would end a pay-per-view and we'd all be sitting around talking to each other saying, I think this was the greatest pay-per-view they've ever done. I think this pay-per-view is the greatest of all time, and so on and so forth. And always challenging because of how great these shows were. You'd have multiple, incredible matches on it, a couple of match of the year candidates on them. And you'd be like, what a tremendous show from top to bottom. This is just exciting. It's great. And I think we've been conditioned into expecting this level of greatness from AEW pay-per-views, so that when they don't deliver on that high level, that S tier level, they give us an A pay-per-view and we're like, oh, this is good job. But we can't help but feel disappointed. And that's weird. That's weird, because any other promotion in the world puts on this show. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, hell yeah, man. Pro Wrestling Noah, this show was just tremendous. But here I'm like, no, this was very good. This was a very good show. And it's weird because you'll see as I break it down, I liked a lot of this stuff. There's stuff that I liked a lot. There's stuff that I thought was great. I even think there's a match of the year on this. You're going to see that I like the show as I talk about it, but I don't want to. I might be giving the impression that, oh yeah, this was fine. This was all right. Whereas it was more than just all right. This is a very, very good pro wrestling show. And, you can talk about the number of matches that you want. You can talk about the number of matches that you want and say, 14 matches or whatever. That's too long. I still think that this is that this is a content creator problem. I think it's a media problem. I think it's people who write and talk and produce content around pro wrestling who have an issue with it have an issue with AEW pay-per-views having lots of matches on them. I think it's a them issue that's spilled over into the fan base to have become quote unquote an issue, when in fact it's not there. Like, it kind of baffles me to think that that someone sitting down, plunking down $60 for a pay-per-view would be upset that the show had so many matches on it. You know, you kind of get your money's worth here as well. Again, I don't get it, you know. I think it's, you know, people on Twitter looking for an excuse to crap on things. I think it's people who feel that they have to watch everything and they're like, oh, another 5-hour pay-per-view. Yeah, but you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. And if you have to watch it and it's your job, shut the hell up. Like, shut up. If it's your job, someone is paying you to write about this show, to make videos about this show. Shut up and watch the show. Be grateful that you are being paid to do this. But overall, yeah, I think this is a show that that I don't think was hurt by, things being uneven with New Japan or, stuff like that. I don't think it's a show that was that felt like the partners were second tier. I really don't. I thought it came together in a really nice package. Why don't we just get to it? Why don't we just start reviewing, breaking this down? And I think we're going to start right from the top, talking about Swerve Strickland successfully retaining the AEW World title against Will Ospreay in an absolutely tremendous, outstanding match. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. And there's a lot of reasons why this was fantastic. I think the first story, spoiler alert, the first reason is because of the story that they told here. I think the build to this match was phenomenal. Not that there weren't a couple of hiccups along the way. I think there were a couple of maybe one or two little side steps as we got to the event, but minimal, not incredibly terrible things. The story that they told here, basic stuff. Two guys want the world title, as most of your world title matches should be about. You just want the title, right? That's the thing. But then on top of that, you add in some tension, some animosity, and then it became personal. Then it started to become personal. They started to, but Swerve started bringing in Will's family in this overall idea that Swerve has the killer instinct, Will Ospreay doesn't. He's been hesitant about doing the Tiger Driver 91. That was ultimately, it wasn't the focal point, but it was part of this story that they were telling, where Swerve was essentially saying, look, I have what it takes. You're not ready to sacrifice anything. You're not ready to sacrifice everything for this title. Me, I am. And it brought us forward week after week where things would happen, the tension would build. Swerve would keep calling Will out on the fact that he doesn't have the killer instinct, and then they get to the weigh-in. on Collision, which was a terrific angle. And, Will turned out sucker punching, he attacked Swerve, essentially. So that showed that I think that was a turning point where it's like, yes, I do have the killer instinct. In fact, Swerve, you're bringing it out of me. And I thought that was tremendous, right? So on one point, on one end, I think the build was great and people were excited about the match. Not only for that, but because these are two fantastic pro wrestlers that started, that got into the ring and started pro wrestling, doing some great pro wrestling. And that's what people were expecting. And that's what we got. And you could see, like, from the start, when the match started, these two dudes had, they're doing stuff, they're cycling out of each other's moves. And then the audience, as they're performing, as they're doing this, they're not when they stop doing their moves and they stare at each other and then the audience cheers on cues. No, as they're doing the moves, the audience is up on their feet and they're applauding and they're cheering. And I'm watching this and I'm saying to myself, I remember when AEW was always like this. I remember when we'd have matches and tons of cool shit happening in those matches and people would be up on their feet and it would just be tremendous. People would be excited for WWE fans would say, AEW fans pop for anything, They pop for everything because it's good. Because they're excited, because they're into it. And the more the match goes on, the more insane stuff that they're doing, the more bumps they're taking, we have Swerve, once again doing a stuffed pile driver on the top of the barricade, which is kind of like his ultra violent move, which is tremendous. And the Tiger Driver 91 spot was really cool. I thought it was really, really cool. No, staring at his hands. Why am I so violent? No hesitation even. Will was like, Tiger Driver 91, I'm living, and he lifts him up. And he was going to plant Swerve. But Swerve rolled out of the move. And not while he was, on top of Will's shoulder. No, as Will was driving him down. That's when Swerve slipped out of it. And I was like, this is tremendous. There was no hesitation. He was going to plant him with the Tiger Driver 91. But the only reason why it didn't happen is because Swerve snuck out of there. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome. That final sequence, just great stuff. And the screwdriver spot didn't bother me. I know a lot of people got upset and bent out of shape. But I myself, it didn't get to me. It didn't bother me in the slightest. Well, not in the slightest. That's not true. Because at first, when it happened, when Don Callis came out, I groaned audibly. I was, no. I let a big old groan out. But I thought the way it was handled, the way it was done, didn't hamper the match. Was it necessary? No. Does it add a little story beat to this Don Callis family separation thing with Will Ospreay? Yes. I think they have something interesting that they should explore on Dynamite this Wednesday. There has to be a follow-up to this. Because I think Don at this point, Don has to do something. Because Will isn't listening. He's doing his own thing. And Don Callis is like, look, come on, man. You're losing because you're not listening to me, kind of thing, Or you've lost because you didn't listen to me. They have to, at the very least, explore it a little bit. But other than that, it didn't bother me all that much. I thought it was well done. It was just enough. And we moved on quickly from, Will trying to stab Prince Nana. Like, I think it's okay for him to have this moment where he's like, where he's questioning himself, where he's like, I don't know if I want to stab Prince Nana, because Prince Nana is not a wrestler. Yeah, he's a goofball, but he's not a pro wrestler. And maybe it was an indication that maybe Will doesn't have that killer instinct either. Would Swerve had hesitated, and so on and so forth. But look, it didn't take me away, and boy, oh boy, was this a definitive win for Swerve. Like, this is the one that he can hang his hat on, and the one that defines his championship role at this point. Like, you can't just sit here and go, no, maybe, but also, not that great, or, no. Like, I've been talking about this on the AEW reviews, which you should watch and listen to every Thursday here on the podcast. I've been talking about how I felt over the past few weeks, one or two little hiccups aside, that Swerve was finally leaning into this championship role, and he was finally getting this world champion aura about him, where you felt like he was the guy. And I don't know if it was by working with Ospreay. I don't know if it's just something that clicked, but you could absolutely tell that this guy was starting to feel like the guy. And I wasn't convinced that Will was going to take the title off of him. In fact, I had predicted that Swerve would retain, and he did, because I think it would have been premature to slap it on Will at this stage. And clearly the booking in AEW agreed with me. Yeah, there you go. I think it was premature. And I think with the quality of the match that happened, and the finish, and how Swerve was presented at the end of things, I think it is absolutely, he absolutely has risen to be the guy. I think that's absolutely what happened. I think he was elevated. They brought him to another level. And he had a tremendous 5-star match of the year candidate match here. Of course, you can argue, yeah, it's Will with Will Ospreay, but sure, but also Swerve is a tremendous pro wrestler in his own right. So these two elements together, creating a match of the year, should not even be surprising to anyone. I'm completely into this, and Will is not suffering from this. His star is not dropping. They're not dropping the ball on him. Not when they have him do tremendous matches like this, in which where after he ends up continuing establishing himself as a top guy, a top performer, a champion. Like, he still has the international championship and whatnot. And he's going to be in a big spot at Wembley. Like, it's fine. All of this is fine. And everyone in this is fine. And Swerve looks even better because of that decision. And I think it was a good one. It was a good one, especially considering the quality of the match that they had. Now, there was a story that was put out by Fightful that Will Ospreay asked to, basically lobbied, how about we put it that way, lobbied Creative to have him lose to Swerve. And I'm not surprised. And we even talked about this on this very show. few times in the lead up. I was like, I can absolutely see Will Ospreay, going up to Tony Khan and convincing him and saying, look, Tony, I'm going to do the JOB to my pal here because my pal needs it. I don't want him to come across as a transitional champion. It's not my time regardless. I'm around for a bit. We can put this off. Put your faith in Swerve. I can absolutely see that happening. He's done it before. Turns out that's apparently what happened. Apparently he went up and he said, no, I'm losing tonight. And he convinced them. He convinced the creative people that this was a good idea. And it turns out it was a very good idea. So good for Will. Tremendous stuff. And this is a match that you absolutely have to go watch if you haven't. It's such a great match. And here's the thing is that, no blood was shed. There were no antics. It wasn't like some of the trapping. It was a straight up pro wrestling match that was so good, so well put together, great structure, made you believe. Those near falls at the end, just tremendous stuff. Holy shit. That hidden blade that Will Ospreay took, right? The one that Swerve gave him. Left him with the nice big shiner. You could see it. You could see it flare up before your very eyes. There was no blood, but I'm going to tell you, that added to the match. Unfortunate accident. I'm sure Will is fine. He's had worse. But I'm looking at that, I'm like, this is tremendous stuff. It just added to the drama. I was like, oh, come on, let's go. Let's go. It's so good. Then around this, well, you had Dan Garcia, who was in the audience. He was up in a box, I guess, watching from a loft. And there's this rumor going around that Daniel Garcia might be written off television because he might be going to WWE because he met with WWE recently. And I find that weird because he's in the midst of a push. They've given him video packages and he's legitimately in the midst of a push. Unless they write him off TV after this match with Ospreay this week, right? Which could be. I'll defer. I'll defer any thoughts, some real thoughts, until this Dynamite is done. But I mean, they've been giving him video packages. They've been keeping him at the center of things, having him challenge for titles. And his whole story has been for this, like since the Continental Classic, has been, I have to find my footing and I have to become who I was meant to be, kind of thing. Do you think they're gonna let him do that in NXT? Do you think they're gonna let him do that in NXT? Go join up with they're gonna put him in a stable with Pillman Jr. That's what they're gonna do. No, look, I think it's kind of goofy. It's a goofy rumor. I just wanted to address it. It's weird to me, but you know what? Here's the thing. If there's one thing that this environment of pro wrestling has in 2024 and before that, from 2022 on, has taught me is that don't hedge any bets. You never know what's going to happen. You never know anything can flip on a dime here. So listen, let's just see what Wednesday's all about. Then we'll talk some more about Daniel Garcia rumors about him leaving AEW. But he was watching this. MJF was watching backstage as well. And then after the match, Kyle Fletcher came out to console Will Ospreay, who was very disappointed in himself for having lost the championship. And Fletcher was there to make sure that everything was okay. So all good little angles, all good, just little story drops. I liked it. Why don't we keep going down in reverse order here? IWGP World Heavyweight title was changed hands. Tetsuya Naito regained the belt by defeating Jon Moxley. Look, this match was slow. It was clunky. And it was a little baffling that it was, because these are two phenomenal pro wrestlers. But you know what? It just didn't work out. It didn't work out. And we have to understand that moving forward, as we're booking programs here, Tetsuya Naito and Jon Moxley have zero chemistry together. Like, it was like two 2x4s just like running into each other. Just no chemistry at all. And on top of that, look, I think, maybe this is a hot take, I think this was the worst show on the card, on the main show. I thought this was the worst match of the main show. And it just didn't work. And on top of it, I mean, this was the exact same match that they ran at Windy City Riot, except the role reversed. At Windy City Riot, Mox was working from beneath, and Naito was sort of guiding the match. And here they did the mirror image. Same thing, except Naito was working from under to get the win. But it was essentially the same match. I was like, really? Because I liked the Windy City Riot match a lot more than this one. I'm not saying that, the Chicago match was a blow away spectacular, that, add it into your end of year lists, folks. None of that. Not even close. But I enjoyed it more than this match that they had at Forbidden Door. It wasn't great. It really wasn't great. And could there be a more fitting conclusion to the Jon Moxley IWGP World Heavyweight Championship run? A run that no one will say was spectacular, was compelling. I dare say, might not even say was good. It was an underwhelming, frustrating affair. Underwhelming for the match quality and the quality of opponents, and frustrating for New Japan fans specifically, where they felt their world championship title was not being properly respected, that the booking was so weird. I mean, let's look. Jon Moxley defended his title 5 times, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 times against Powerhouse Hobbs, Ren Narita, Shota Umino, and Evil. Okay? You could say that Shota was probably the best match. I would probably agree with that. You could say that, Evil's a former champion, so there's that. Sure. But the match that he defended it on, was the Lumberjack match, and that was kind of nonsense. Narita? No, come on. Powerhouse Hobbs, all due respect. Underwhelming. Completely underwhelming. And we're right back to Naito getting the belt. And I don't know, honestly, why anyone was really surprised. I don't know how anyone was really surprised at the idea of Tetsuya Naito hanging on to the belt, or regaining the title, I should say, as we go into the G1, and that is going to establish, whoever's winning there to be headlining the Tokyo Dome, right? I mean, you're not headlining the Tokyo Dome in 2024 with Shota Umino and Yota Tsuji. You're not. You're putting your most popular babyface in the main event at the top spot. You're just doing it. You cannot. It cannot be emphasized enough how much of a popular star Tetsuya Naito is in Japan. So it doesn't make sense if he were to come into the G1 and without his belt, and worse yet, lose the G1 and not be in the main event of the Dome this year. It doesn't make sense. A lot of people were wondering, well, what about the, maybe they're doing this for his health. Maybe there's health reasons. Maybe he will be dropping his G1 spot to Jon Moxley because of his health. If people are so concerned about his health, maybe we should start scaling him back. Now, I understand why he's still in a position in the position that he's in, and I'm saying all of this as a Tetsuya Naito fan, as an LIJ fan. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to poo-poo here, but let's take a critical approach to this. Naito's body has been breaking down as well, just like Tanahashi, and just like a lot of the old guys. His body's been breaking down, just like the others, and he's in the spot now where he wants to be wrestling. He's in the spot now where he can be at the top, because all the other guys he'd share the top spot with are either broken down beyond belief as a top contender, or are just not in the company anymore. And since New Japan is in a rejuvenation period, which is how I'm starting to call it, now that, with the G1 field coming up, or at least it feels like they're about to be in a rejuvenation period, they still need to rely on some of the old stars that have carried the company since the 2010s. And Tetsuya Naito was the last guy standing. Barely, because his needs are like directly on cartilage, and it mustn't be fun to be who he is right now. So I understand that you have to keep him around. You can't just decide to belt up everyone right and left and not make him a super, and not make sure that he's there to carry a lot of the drawing power until Shota Umino and Yota Tsuji and Yuya Uemura turn into bona fide draws, or El Fantasmo. Let's throw him into this pool. Until they become bona fide draws, you need a guy like Naito around. So again, I understand why he's in this position. But we have to come to grips with the fact that we can't get excited for Tetsuya Naito matches as we once did. He's not the guy he used to, and he's breaking down. He's Hiroshi Tanahashi 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we'd watch him wrestle, and a lot of us were saying, we're getting close to the end here. We all saw it coming, during the pandemic. We're like, man, Tanahashi he's not there anymore. Not quite the same guy. And it's all downhill from here, and it's just a question of time. We all saw it coming. And now we're firmly in it. Like, Tana, no, he's shot, completely physically shot. Well, Naito started down that path. Naito was officially down that path. You know, where you're like, okay. It's just a couple of years, a year, 2 years before he's completely shot, before he's Tanahashi levels of shot, is what I'm saying. It's closer than we think. And Gedo has to, you know, push the gas pedal on this this plan to reignite the New Japan with some new guys. He's got to go. Now's the time, while he can still count on Naito to, you know, draw a house. Until another guy can do that, Naito is absolutely super useful to the company. But his health is running out, and it's getting kind of sad. It's getting kind of sad to see him, you know, not being able to do Destinos without being lifted by his opponent and stuff like that. Like, you're like, okay. It's weird, you know, and I don't want it to get sad. You kind of want your favorites to go out, you know, on top, with all the memories intact. That, I don't know if that'll be the case. I mean, we're talking about Naito's health, right? But what about Jon Moxley? And okay, let me preface this before we go one step further. I am not saying that Jon Moxley is washed. I'm not saying that, even remotely saying that Jon Moxley is washed. Not even close. But, you know, his past couple of matches, they've been all right. Like, sure, you know, he did the blood sport, right, with Josh Barnett, and, you know, it's what you expected. But, you know, like, his matches recently, they've all kind of been so average. Don't quite have the spark. I thought his match, again, with Shota Umino was very good, but outside of that, and I don't know if he's unmotivated. Hopefully it's not because of other reasons. And I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go too deep on that, but I'm just saying, I'm hoping. But maybe he's unmotivated. Again, this is another guy that I saw rumors about earlier this week, and I don't know. Maybe kind of will probably be, might be like, might be a little bullshit. You know, that he's kind of frustrated with his spot in AEW, and, well, not with his spot, but where the directions the company's going in. Maybe, I don't know. Super rumors. But maybe that's it. Maybe he's unmotivated. I don't know. But here's another guy. Look, again, I'm not saying the guy's washed. Far from it. But maybe we should put a pin in this, you know, put it on the corkboard and say, you know, this was, you know, this year's Forbidden Door was the moment where Jon Moxley clearly started slipping downhill. And maybe in a couple of weeks, I will be eating these words as he has some of the best matches of his career. I don't know, but I think there's something here. Like, look, the craziest schedule he's been on for the past 2 years, right? Tony Khan, was it on his call with Alvarez and Meltzer, or was it the media call? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But he was talking about how Jon Moxley was a cornerstone of the company. He called him the most reliable wrestler that we have. You're damn right. That guy was your ace. He was your MVP. He came into work when things were dire, when people were just doing bullshit. He was like, I'm going to keep my nose clean, head to the ground. Is that it? Head down, nose to the ground. There you go. And do the work. He was there when the company needed him most. Now, the question is this still the same guy? Is this still the same man? This is what we're going to find out. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But honestly, this match, to circle back to the match itself, just terrible stuff. This wasn't good. Well, not terrible, but not good. Not a good match, and the worst match on the show. Mercedes Moné defeated Stephanie Vaquer to become the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. And she is now a dual champion, champ Mercedes. TBS title, New Japan Strong. I thought this match was tremendous. I thought this was a tremendous match. And on top of that, Stephanie Vaquer, absolutely tremendous. I thought, it was pointed to me after that, some people thought that maybe at the start of the match, Mercedes Moné had been knocked a little loopy, right? That something had happened and she was a little loopy because the referee was checking on them a lot, them being Mercedes and Vaquer. And they were, he was checking on them. So maybe something happened because I thought Mercedes was a little sloppy in this match. But then again, we know she is, and it happens. I wouldn't say frequently, but it happens often that she's sloppy in her matches, and it works. You know what I mean? Like it's actually part of her charm. It's part of what makes her unique. And so she, for a while I'm like, okay, is she okay? What's going on? Like she's having an off night. Meanwhile, Vaquer is just absolutely stellar. Solid. Confident, a backbone in this match, like making sure that everything worked. Look, let's just say it. She rose to the occasion and she outshined Mercedes Moné. And it's to the point that the audience was cheering for Vaquer during the match. And we're booing Mercedes Moné. Like, come on. Vaquer won this audience over. And that's fine. That's fine, because you know what? I prefer a Brit, not a Brit, we're going to talk about Brit, but I prefer a heel Mercedes Moné. A heel Sasha Banks has always been greatly superior to any babyface stuff that she did. She is so good as a heel. I think she has, moving into her next program, that's what she has to do. Again, I understand you're bringing her in. You want to do the babyface stuff. That's fine. I get it. You want to be a little tweener. That's fine. But here we got to get a clear differentiation here. There's no mixed alignments here. You're a babyface or a heel, Mercedes, and hopefully, praying for it anyway, that she's going to be a heel moving forward in this next program. But it's crazy how history repeated itself here. Because I don't know if you recall last year in the tournament for the inaugural New Japan Strong Women's title, both of these women were in the knockout round, right? They were in the opening salvo. They were in the same match, and everyone left that match going, who the hell is Stephanie Vaquer? Like, not a lot of people knew who she was. So she had expanded her reach and her buzz. There was a lot of buzz that carried Vaquer over the next year, she started getting booked elsewhere. She's going to Rev Pro. She's done AEW. Like, she's on a roll. And now she has this tremendous match with Mercedes. And we're in the exact same spot where people maybe who didn't see the strong tournament saw Vaquer here and became fans. So she's actually grown her fan base to a much larger extent because she was on a friggin' AEW pay-per-view. I think that's tremendous. And it's deserved too. Because she was awesome. She was so solid in this match. It was ridiculous. She rose to the occasion. Once again, history repeats itself. It's a flat circle, folks. It's an absolute flat circle. Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vaquer. Vaquer loses, but ultimately is a winner. And that's all you really want out of these kinds of matches. Vaquer is solid. Like, she's TV ready for American TV. Like, she just gets it. Super solid worker. Of course, everyone is like, when is she coming back? When we need to see her some more? Of course. It's great stuff. So I was excited about the match. I haven't been giving any ratings. I gave the main event 5 stars. I give Moxley and Naito a 3, like a gentleman's 3 kind of thing. And Moné versus Vaquer, I gave 4 1/4. A super solid match. Just great stuff. After the match, Britt Baker showed up to the delight of everyone. She came out and she did her little twirls at the top of the ramp. She got her fireworks. She got the whole 9 yards. Looked like a goddamn star. Hey, what more do you want? That's it. That's Britt Baker in a nutshell. And she's gonna come out on Wednesday for Dynamite, and she's gonna look like a star, and and people are gonna be excited to see her. And look, she is going to be the babyface in this program. She's going to be the babyface, and Moné has to be the heel. You can't cut it both ways, and it is a tremendous match for Wembley. An absolutely tremendous match for Wembley. You kidding me? She's coming in and she's saying, "Oh, you took my spot." You know, whatever. Look, it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to this feud. Forgot to mention after this, but before the Moxley Naito match, there was a promo for New Japan Pro Wrestling announcing Wrestling Dynasty that aired. That is going to be a show that will happen on Sunday, January 5th, the day after Wrestle Kingdom. So January 5th, 2024, at the Tokyo Dome. So basically, they're doing a 2-night Tokyo Dome show this year, in 2025, at the start of the year, in a couple of months, for both New Japan, well, not both. There's a bunch of people involved here. In the promo, we saw logos for AEW, Ring of Honor, CMLL, and Stardom. In addition to shots of AEW stars like Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and Kazuchika Okada. And in the video, it was said, the door finally opens on Japan, I should say. And we're getting a big crossover show on Japanese soil the day after Wrestle Kingdom. So I am interested very interested to see how this is going to go down. Because there are so many, look, it's essentially another Forbidden Door that we're going to get, right? Or that at least Japan is getting. Let's put it that way. It's another Forbidden Door. So one of the things I talked about in my preview last week is that maybe Forbidden Door has lost a bit of its luster because a lot of the dream matches or the crossover potential that was so new and exciting 3 years ago is no longer there because New Japan and AEW run into each other all throughout the year. They'll send a guy over to do a match, a special singles on a show over in Japan or at Wrestle Kingdom, and New Japan will send some dudes over to AEW to wrestle, whatever. So maybe the sheen of New Japan and AEW doing crossover shows isn't as novel as it was because there's all this stuff going on throughout the year. So it makes me wonder, what are they going to do with Wrestling Dynasty when we already have a Forbidden Door and we're going to have another Forbidden Door likely next year? So, how is the, and then, there's Wrestle Dream, that last year had a New Japan influence on it as well. That AEW put on, and now, we're going to go do this in January, and then we're going to come back with Forbidden Door. Like, how is all of this going to impact next year's Forbidden Door? Even if you're saying, next year, more CMLL guys. Well, we're having CMLL guys on this show. More Stardom girls. Oh, there's going to be Stardom girls on this show. It makes me wonder if all of these crossover shows amongst these partners, the two North American promotions and the Japanese one, if it's going to run into diminishing and returns really, really quickly. And you have to think that doing a dome show with this crossover stuff has to bring some top tier, exciting, never before seen, or at least top level matches, right? You have to bring some top tippy top stuff because you're in the dome. You just can't fill this up with a card full of 6-man, trios matches and 8-man tags. If you're hoping to fill up the Tokyo Dome, I can only assume that there are going to be some matches on this card that are going to be big time, that will have some serious stakes to them. Otherwise, it'll just be like a one of these all together shows that the Japanese promotions put on together, where it's just multi-man matches from top to bottom because that's just how it goes, right? Which is fine if you want to do a show in Sumo Hall or in Korakuen Hall, but if you're trying to fill up the Tokyo Dome 2 nights in a row, you gotta there's gotta be something special planned here. And then whatever's planned that's special there is gonna have a direct impact on Forbidden Door come June 2025. You see what I'm getting at? Like, at some point, these shows are just going to be diminishing returns. And, chat's not wrong. It's like, could be a way to showcase the promotions better by doing matches between top talent, good ways to introduce guys to a casual audience. Sure, but, and I would agree with you if they were running any other building than the Tokyo Dome. You're running the Tokyo Dome, that to me means we're going to pull out all the stops and this has to be a big time show. Right? It has to be. Because it's not as if New Japan is filling up it's not as if New Japan has been filling up the dome to the rafters for the past couple of Wrestle Kingdoms here. Doing better, but we're not at pre-pandemic levels, right? So, there's something there. There's something, like, I'm really excited to see how this is going to come together, right? And how New Japan is going to handle promoting this with fucking Wrestle Kingdom, which is their biggest show of the year, which is happening just the night before. So it'll be interesting. Like, I'm not poo-pooing on this at all. I, for one, applaud and am excited at more crossovers between promotions, right? Because it's exciting, because the fans like it. Don't lose sight that this is why Paul Levesque is working with other promotions now, that he's working with TNA and Marigold. It's for these same reasons. It's to get the fan base excited, right? It's to get his fan base excited. His fan base that will never watch these shows. His fan base that has not been tuning in to Access on Thursday nights to watch TNA wrestling, to see Joe Hendry, to see Jordan Grace, to see Frankie Kazarian. Because the WWE universe does not care about anything else than WWE. The Moose, King of the North, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Great, perfect timing. Anyway, little sidebar there. We'll circle back to this. We'll see how things go. But as it stands right now, like on July 2nd, which is when I'm recording this, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Come and join us. As it stands right now, I'm intrigued, curious, and anticipating how this is going to affect the future of crossover events, or future crossover events moving forward. I think it's fine that Japan is getting its own joint show with the North American promotions. I think it's tremendous. I think that's great. But I don't know what to think about. I don't know what to think about how this is going to affect the other crossover endeavors. Maybe we end up in an environment where there will be less crossovers between CMLL, AEW, and New Japan until these bigger signature shows. Or maybe not less crossover shows. Maybe not less crossover possibilities, but maybe the big matches will be saved for the shows. Like, we won't be giving away Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. on, what was it? Was it on Dynasty, on AEW Dynasty? Wasn't that on Dynasty? We're going to wait for the big ones, right? It'll be interesting. I mean, yeah, while we're at it, let's just send everyone to Arena Mexico. Let's stop screwing around. Oh, it's Wrestle Dream? Okay. Let's just stop screwing around. Let's just stop screwing around and let's just throw all of these boys and girls into Arena Mexico. Let's do a 6-hour Arena Mexico show. Let's see if these Lucha Libre fans, let's see how many kiss cams they can handle. Anyway, by the way, Wrestling Dynasty was the name of the show that New Japan was going to run at Madison Square Garden before the pandemic laid the smackdown. So good for them bringing this back. Cheers. There's going to be a lot less Marty Scurll on this show. Let's move on with this review. AEW TNT title ladder match. Jack Perry defeated Dante Martin, El Fantasmo, Konosuke Takeshita, Lio Rush, and Mark Briscoe to become the new TNT champion. Not a show filled with surprise endings, right? I feel like it was a pretty easy show to predict. I think the results were mostly yes. But being predictable isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not. Sometimes in pro wrestling, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. And what a journey this was! This ladder match, which I am, as you know, part of the I can't take this anymore squad. I'm completely spent on ladder matches, but this one here, oh, hey, buddy, this ruled. I thought this was tremendous, even though it was littered with all the little things that really make me that really annoy me with ladder matches. Like guys being up on the ladder and doing, and reaching for the belt and touching it with their tippy tip fingers, and you're like, Jesus, man, just walk up one more rung. You're there. Just one more rung. It just continues to compound the fact that wrestlers are stupid. If I stretch enough, I can touch it. I can probably reach it if I stretch enough. Instead of just, you got like 4 more rungs you could climb up on, pal. And guys being taken out for like 3 to 4 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. It was, I think Rich said it when we did the instant reaction. It's just, big dumb guys doing big dumb stuff, and it was tremendous. And I think that's the perfect analysis for this match. And no one got insanely hurt. Lio Rush apparently got hurt, but we'll talk about that in a second. The Mark Briscoe, Mark Briscoe doing Mark Briscoe things, and he was tremendous. And the table, right? That blue thunder bomb by Konosuke Takeshita off the ramp, not off the ramp, off the apron, through the table on the floor, and the tables just exploded. Like they disintegrated on impact. There is nothing salvageable from those tables. What a fucking tremendous spot. That is going to stay in my mind. It was just a tremendous effort by everyone. Everyone worked hard here. I love this match. I gave it, what did I give this match? What is it? 4 stars. How about that? I thought this was really good. Despite the fact that, it's a ladder match and a bunch of things annoyed me. Like, they didn't spend their time, constructing things with the ladder and building things. I just wish that they could just slap a ladder match together that I just wish that we could see less and less ladder matches. We'd just see less of them. That would make me really happy. I'm so exhausted when it comes to ladder matches. I feel we're seeing less of them. And I'm saying this, and we're on the cusp of Money in the Bank, which is happening this weekend. That's a whole that's ladder matches galore there as well. When they're standing around and they're building structures, and I'm like, oh God, I hate this. But look, it's an AEW pay-per-view. You gotta have a ladder match. And the chat pointed out the reaction that the crowd had to Konosuke Takeshita walking up the ladder and teasing winning, and the big reaction he got. People love Konosuke Takeshita. I don't think that's something that is. I don't think that's something that people doubt or that believe isn't true. People love Konosuke Takeshita. I don't know why Tony's not pushing the guy. And he's not pushing him to the point where he's like, yeah, I don't need you this summer. I don't need you this summer. It's fine. And that to me is baffling. And if the rumors are true that he's annoyed, that he's not super happy in AEW right now, he's absolutely right. And this is a guy who was brought in and was getting tremendous reactions. People wanted more of Konosuke Takeshita. And then they have him beat Kenny Omega twice in a week. And what the hell is he doing now? It's baffling. The follow-up, the follow-ups from our boy Tony are bad. They're just bad. Like I said, Lio Rush apparently got hurt in the match. Beyond Wrestling announced that Rush will not be competing at the promotion's July 4th events in Worcester, due to injuries suffered at the pay-per-view. And then Rush posted on social media, I'm not suffering, but man, I am in some pain. Am I in some pain? What a night. What a match. I'll be back for more. Thanks everyone for riding with me along on this journey through the Forbidden Door. And he later added, I'm good, guys. A couple of ice baths and I'll be straight. I appreciate the concern. Chat said it before I could. I'm not sure he's hurt. Lio Rush not making a booking. I'm sure. Yeah, 4 stars for me on that one. Then we had, then we had Hook, Katsuyori Shibata, and Samoa Joe defeating Big Bill, Chris Jericho, and Jeff Cobb. You know what? I like this match, and I know it's very in vogue to not like Chris Jericho matches, but what he's doing is working, and his heel work is tremendous. And you know who's benefiting from this right now? Big Bill and Hook with his association with Samoa Joe and Shibata, of course. But look, Hook wins the match with the Judas effect. Crowd were up on their feet. They knew exactly what happened here. I mean, he just keeps making it work. And his quarter hours and ratings are always good. And, I had people telling me, during the show, the lineups to the bathroom are really, really long now for this match. And, well, it's a shame because they're missing a fun match. Ultimately, but look, to each their own. It's just, I feel like the vocal fans who are very much against Chris Jericho and don't like Chris Jericho are in the minority overall. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's Chris Jericho does it again. And I thought this match was pretty good. Big reaction to when Samoa Joe and Jeff Cobb got in the ring together. And you know what? Look, as much as I thought this 6-man over-delivered. Like, I thought this was the match of the night where we got more than what we expected out of it. In the lead up, I was really expecting Jeff Cobb, because Jeff Cobb had posted on social media that he was doing an open challenge for the New Japan World TV title. And I was like, oh man, Samoa Joe they should put Samoa Joe on the card and have him fight him for it. And I'm like, who wouldn't want to see that? And you want to protect Joe, you don't want him to take a pin, and you don't want Cobb to lose the belt. Let's go. 15-minute time limit. Let's just have a big man, meaty sprint. 15 minutes, let's go. That would have been tremendous. And I think would have been even better than what we saw in this 6-man tag. Which was fine, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I mean, it was all right. I enjoyed it. I thought this was good. Got no complaints. I don't have deep thoughts on it either. It's like, I think Hook is really benefiting from this association with Samoa Joe. And you know what? Katsuyori Shibata is too. Katsuyori Shibata is absolutely benefiting from being in this badass group with Samoa Joe, who is the most legitimate badass in professional wrestling right now. Like, I don't think there's anyone who comes off more like a true to form badass / threat than Samoa Joe does. Then we had Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Orange Cassidy. This was so good. This was so good. How good was this match? 4.5 stars I gave to this one here. Just a tremendous affair of grappling and counter wrestling and stuff that you listen. Let's flip back to 2019, and you're seeing Orange Cassidy, meme wrestler extraordinaire, sauntering onto AEW television. And if you sat there and someone told you, you know what, I bet in 5 years he's gonna have a barn burner with Zack Sabre Jr., you'd be like, go get me a Mountain Dew. You just hand wave that, and with reason. But we've seen the evolution of Orange Cassidy as a professional wrestler over these past few years, where yes, he came in with the jokes, with the ha-has, but he has become so much more than a comedy wrestler. There will always be the comedy, the jokes, but he can go with the best. He showed it with Ospreay. What was it, at the first Forbidden Door, if I'm not mistaken? And now this year with Zack Sabre Jr., and these are two prime wrestlers that the work rate nerds like myself consider these guys to be two of the top 5 pro wrestlers in the world. And Orange Cassidy's there and he's hanging with them like it's effortless. And he's not doing shtick. He's not going around doing the shin kicks at every moment, or doing the pockets. And no, he's doing the wrestling. And I appreciate that. And I think that at some point, there has to be, and maybe I'm going to be the guy to do it, but there has to be a real deal, legitimate breakdown of Orange Cassidy's career from a meme wrestler to a guy who ends up on a national stage and transforms enough, staying as true to himself as possible, but while becoming a quote unquote serious pro wrestler. A guy who shows out, a guy who is able to prove to people that he is capable of hanging in the ring with some of the best pro wrestlers in the world. That he's not a slouch. And he's not just about the jokes. That he's not, unlike his character would lead you to believe, he's not just lazying about on this. This was a tremendous match. And Cassidy on this front, I think, has been impeccable. Ever since he started leaning a little more into the serious side, no more mimosa matches. When's the last time he's done a goofy match stipulation? Well, I think that's it, right? The mimosa match. Orange Cassidy has been one of the best values in AEW. It's been crazy. Consistent, good to great. Last year, his international title run was the talk of the town. A true to form legendary run with the title. An absolute workhorse. And he hasn't stopped. He's never really slowed down. Just keeps going. I don't know. I get he's in a feud with his buddy Trent, and, he probably wants to try and get him over, and I understand the rivalry and so on, but man, it feels beneath him. It feels under him. He gets into this feud with Jon Moxley, and it connects, it works, and you believe in him. You're behind him, you're rooting for him. He's in this match with Zack Sabre Jr., and he just delivers. I don't know. Tremendous stuff. I have, did I say 4.5 stars? Yeah, baby. Oh, and Zack Sabre Jr. is winning the G1, by the way, off of winning this match. And Jake Lee is knocking Naito out of the tournament. AEW Women's World Title match. Toni Storm defeated Mina Shirakawa to retain her title. You know what? I liked it. I thought it was solid. I thought it was good. And moving forward with the story as well. I know the story, the Timeless Tony stuff is not everyone's cup of tea, but in this context and in this match, it all sort of it all worked. And Tony was great, and Shirakawa played up as well. I got no issues with this match. They were all very good. And you know what? Mariah May, once it's all said and done, because I think conventional wisdom will lead us all to believe that Mariah May is winning the Owen and will be challenging Toni Storm for Wembley. And whatever the result is, whatever turns out at that particular moment, Mariah May is coming out of this All About Eve story, whatever you want to call it. She's coming out the winner, whether she wins the title or not. Her ascension in the women's division, from just a pretty face to a serious wrestler, a serious contender, has been awesome. She's someone that the fans have adopted, have grown to appreciate, to love. They know how she wrestles. They understand how good she is, and this story is sort of adding a little bit of flair to it as well. Again, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and it's been more palatable for me recently because they've been dialing back the timeless Tony stuff quite a bit, which works for me. So, it was easier for me to get into this stuff, this friendship idea between Mariah and between Mariah and Mina and Tony. Maybe a little more than friendship. I understand that me, it works more for me. There, we'll just leave it at that. It works more for me, and it didn't overwhelm the match, even though I got flashbacks to what was the last WWE pay-per-view, the Clash at the Castle, the Hassle at the Castle, right? Where they had Maxine Dupree at ringside doing stupid, dopey, concerned faces. Well, Mariah May was doing dopey, concerned faces ringside as well. And I was like, oh, come on. You don't need to do this to me. We don't need to be going this hard. You know what I'm saying? But look, I thought the match was very good. I think Mina Shirakawa came off great on AEW. I think she grew into the role. I think she's someone AEW fans are going to want to see again. I think overall this rivalry, this story was very positive. I think ended up with a solid, good match from your women's world champion. And what more do you want? I gave this 3 3/4 stars. I thought that was very, 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 very good. And you know what? Here's maybe this one thing. I think Mina could have benefited from wrestling more on AEW television. Like I think she wrestled only 2 matches. Unless we go back to April, which was before the push for this. She only wrestled twice. So, they could have had her wrestle a little more to get her offense over, get her finisher over. At some point she hits her finisher, the glamorous driver, and Toni Storm kicks out of it. And everyone's like, but no. This is a big deal. She just kicked out of the finisher. It's more than just clap, clap, clap. No, it's like, okay. And this could have gotten over a little more. It's not perfect, but And hey, you know what? You got yourself you're ending Pride Month with a nice little women's love triangle. That ended up turning out well executed, respectful, well done. It's all for the girls. It's not for, if you were a guy enjoying this was not for you. This was all for the ladies. Okay? 50-year-old straight white guys. That was, nope. That wasn't for, I can't enjoy that part. No, but I'm joking, but it was very well done. And when's the last time a LGBTQ angle, or at the very least look like a lesbian, an angle with lesbian undertones, how about that, was done with tact and certain amount of good taste, as opposed to any other time in pro wrestling history. And I don't even think there's another lesbian love triangle angle that's ever existed, right? I can't even think of one. So there you go. No, it's good stuff. Yeah, I've talked about this match enough. We're good. Okay, let's see what else we got. Where are we? What are we doing? What's the next match? Is this still? Yes. For a minute there, I thought nothing was recording anymore. My God, we still have so many matches. Bryan Danielson defeats Shingo Takagi to advance in the Owen Hart Foundation Men's Tournament. I thought this match was great too. I thought this was another tremendous match between two guys who are just absolutely bonkers great pro wrestlers. You know, it's not as fierce and compelling as their match from 14 years ago in Dragon Gate USA. Of course, that's a whole other time. They're all younger. They're not as banged up. But this is still a masterstroke of a match between two guys who are just excellent pro wrestlers, right? I think ultimately I was expecting a more explosive finish in this match, but I'll be damned if this wasn't a great pro wrestling match. I'll be damned. And, you know, they're doing stuff, they're countering out of things, and then the turning point in the match is when Shingo does the draping DDT on the floor or something, right? And they play off of that for the rest of the match, and you know, Danielson's injury, and they have Doc Samson coming to check. Doc Samson should have a manager's license for Bryan Danielson. He should just come out with him, right? It should be accompanied to the ring by Doc Samson, the American Dragon. You know, at this point, he's Bryan Danielson's supporting cast. But I look, I don't have a problem. I know some people are annoyed that, oh, we're still telling Bryan Danielson neck injuries. Well, yeah. Like, it's not just lore. The neck is not just Bryan Danielson lore. Like, it's his ethos. It's part of who he is. When he came back from the injury in WWE, and the first bump he took on his neck, he sold it like he was instantly crippled. People panicked, got afraid. I remember myself, you know, my heart squeezed, and you're like, okay, this is, but you know, you realize it's a work, and it's like, okay, well, he's a worker. Part of his job is making us believe that he's really hurt when he's not. So, of course, we're going to keep having that. And he's been playing off the neck injury for years at this point. Like, it's not even something. If anything, it's not subtle, and it's not something that needs explanation. It needs to be a part of what he's doing. It's not suddenly, oh, the neck is completely healed now. No, the neck is in kayfabe has never been completely healed and is always an issue. That's what they did. That's why they did the thing with the Tiger Driver 91. That's why Will Ospreay had this crisis of consciousness when he was not consciousness, but conscience, when he said, I don't want to use the Tiger Driver 91 anymore because I cripple people with it. And I, you know, look at Bryan Danielson. I almost took him out of commission. And Danielson is fine. But it's still the story that we're telling. And you compound this, like, of course, now moving forward in the tournament, Bryan Danielson's neck is going to be the story of Bryan Danielson's tournament, right? That's the match. That's the story we're telling throughout his matches. His neck is so-so, and his opponents are going to take advantage of it. And that might even be the reason why he's going to lose. That might be how we're going to squirm Danielson out of the tournament, out of headlining Wembley Stadium. We just might. And that would be a good, logical, long-term story, which is what I think people like. But apparently it's like, nah, I wish we weren't doing this again. And on top of it all, Danielson keeps saying year after year, well, not year after year, but this year, this is my last year. I might not be wrestling anymore. I think I'm going to be done. My body can't take it anymore. It can only go so far. And that I believe that his body can't take. much more. But isn't this the point at this stage, right? Where Danielson is like, I have to, isn't that the point that you can add into this story where it's like his neck is an issue because he's a grizzled old vet and his body's falling apart. And of course his neck is falling apart because the rest of his body, because it's his age, because he wants to retire, because he can't do it anymore. Like, it all connects. It all makes sense. And this is the company that people keep telling me they don't tell stories. And you've got them right there. And they tell so many stories that now people are like, maybe not this story. We should tell another story. Anyway, Shingo was great. I thought the audience sucked for this match. I thought they were very uneven throughout the evening. But I thought, for this match, I thought they particularly sucked. You hear me, UBS Arena? Were you there? Were you there? How about you? Yeah, you sucked. No, it was such a good match. Just great stuff, great pro wrestlers. Just pro wrestling, man. Without tons of artifice and, twists and turns and, what's going to happen next? It's just like a pro wrestling match. God damn it. It's great. Well, the other company, they don't even do pro wrestling. They're a show about pro wrestling. Paul Levesque told us himself. Anyway, 4.5 stars. The Elite and the Elite defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi and the Acclaimed. This was okay. The good old Gentleman's 3 on this one. I don't know, man. Okay. We talked about this, Rich Craich and I, about the Okada Tanahashi stare down at first that didn't quite get the big reaction that maybe people were expecting. We didn't get big holy shit chants. We got holy shit chants, but not huge holy shit chants. But, because the idea is like, you've got Okada and Tanahashi, two guys involved in one of the greatest rivalries in pro wrestling, and it's such a big deal, and I get all of this, but at this stage in 2024, why would you get huge holy shit chants with Okada and Tanahashi in a stare down in the ring, right? I don't think the feud itself, the rivalry, was all that hot anymore in New Japan, right? Because they were teaming together, doing the Dream Team stuff. And the last time Okada stood across from Tanahashi was just a couple of months ago. It was in February. So it's not as if time had elapsed enough to make us miss these two giants, these two rivals in the ring together. I just think that it doesn't have the cachet it had once upon a time. We all see where we are with Tanahashi. I was talking about Naito earlier, but we all know where we are with Tanahashi, physically speaking. I think it's a fun moment. So basically, just to backtrack a little bit, Tanahashi being face to face with Okada and not generating a big reaction, I think part of it is because we know Tanahashi physically just can't go. We know what we have now with him. So we're not getting the true exciting matches anymore. And them getting face to face is a fun moment, but I don't think it's a holy shit moment anymore. So I don't think it was that big a deal, But man, Tanahashi's gear, man, he's got to find gear that fits. That's ridiculous. I think he debuted that gear just before Wrestle Kingdom or at Wrestle Kingdom. I don't quite remember. And his pants are constantly slipping down. He's always pulling up his pants, and you see his crack. And I'm just like, It's distracting, man. Like, why can't anyone sit this guy down and say, here's a belt, or let's redesign the gear a size smaller? I don't know, man. I don't understand. I mean, the match was fine, but I thought everything in here was cold. I thought everything in here lacked heat. I think the Young Bucks are cold. And I think the Authority angle is not doing them any favors. And and I said this before. I said it when they started doing the EVP stuff, and people started getting worried that they were going to do an authority figure angle. I was like, listen, this is Nick and Matt Jackson, right? These are two guys who have their fingers on the pulse, who have been trendsetters in pro wrestling for pretty much the entirety of their career. They've been ahead of the curve on so many things. I trust that the Jacksons are going to do something compelling with this EVP authority figure stuff, and it just turns out that they're doing derivative stuff. It's not special. It's not even interesting, and it's falling into all the trappings. And there's plot holes and things that don't make sense. Like all of the trappings of an authority figure angle, they're falling into, and I'm a little surprised and a little disappointed. And I thought they were doing great work. Now I think they're very complacent. And feuding with the Acclaimed, and maybe I'm a little biased because the Acclaimed has never been for me, but I feel like overall the Acclaimed is a little cold. Max Caster's rap here was probably his best in months. I'll concede that. It was tremendous. It was just some great stuff. But I think the act overall is terribly stale. Terribly, terribly stale. And so the work was fine. It's a nice little 3-star match, but there's no heat. No heat. Then we had MJF versus Hechicero. Look, I thought this was very good. Good for MJF to get an early night, punch out real early. MJF's Panama Sunrise, I think, was so good. Like, it's better than any Adam Cole had been doing previous to the injury. But yeah, I think this match underwhelmed me a little bit. I was really expecting Max to sort of turn up with Hechicero and give us some ground game. Like, not suddenly go all out and be like Zack Sabre Jr. too. But I really expected him to have some mat game where we just go, whoa, look at him go. Because the thing is that MJF is a student of the game. He knows this stuff, and he's a great pro wrestler. Even though he likes to pretend that he's above this stuff, he's really into it, and he loves pro wrestling. And I thought that he was going to sort of swerve us on that level and go like, no, okay, I can play with this, with the Alchemist. I can play with Hechicero here. Again, not expecting him to suddenly be, Robbie Brookside, but this is like, nonetheless, but look, I guess, this was the Clash of Styles was there. I guess it was an MJF match that they wrestled, and Hechicero just sort of played along. But yeah, for what it's worth, it's all right. So that was the main card. As far as the pre-show goes, let's go through the pre-show quickly, just to make sure we've got everything covered. Kyle Fletcher defeated Serpentico. Kyle Fletcher, of course, lost the Ring of Honor TV title on Friday in Arena Mexico in CMLL to Atlantis Jr. It's a very good match. You should check it out. So, you can tell here that, they put him on last minute on the card, give him back TV wins, right? Tony's not done with Kyle Fletcher in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, this was an enhancement match for Fletcher. The Kings of the Black Throne defeated Gabe Kidd and Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly and Tomohiro Ishii, and Private Party. Kyle O'Reilly coming down to the ring, walking exactly like Tomohiro Ishii, side by side, was a really funny sight. I thought that was funny. Malachi Black on the pre-show. I guess it worked for him because he didn't have to JOB, right? So I guess he was all right with it, but still should be underscored that apparently he wasn't bothered. I thought this was a good this was a good match. Private Party getting the L here. It's interesting though, because commentary was talking about how Private Party was the most established tag team, amongst everyone here. And look who the final two were, right? The final two were the two tag teams that had the most experience working together. The Kings of the Black Throne and Private Party. It wasn't Gabe Kidd and Roderick Strong, who didn't get along either in the match. So who gets along with Gabe Kidd? I'll tell you. I don't know. So that was consistent. That was good. Good little match. Tom Nakano and Willow Nightingale defeated Chris Statlander and Momo Watanabe. Thought this was good as well. Statlander and Willow, when they finally got into the ring at the same, because Statlander's doing the heel thing where she teases going in to the match, but then hits the bricks when Willow tags in. When they finally started trading blows, that was the reaction from the crowd was tremendous, which once again shows that this story is connecting. The story that they're telling for these two women has been tremendous. I am going to go as far as to say, reiterate even, what I said, I believe it was on the MrWarrenHayes show last week, or was it on the AEW show? I don't remember. But last week I said that, and I will maintain this, the AEW women's division has never been as good as it is right now. And I legitimately think it is better than a lot of the women's divisions that people harp on, saying, oh, these are the best women's divisions in the world. AEW has struggled for so long, but I think now they found a collection of tremendous talent that are capable of doing great things, that are over with the audience, and on top of that, the stories, the angles that they're creating with them are diverse, they're multiple, and they're there. And they're on all levels, from the top of the card to the undercard. You've got stuff happening everywhere. And you're not trying to make excuses for Jade Cargill or whatever. Like, you've got great women in great positions throughout the card, throughout the roster. Britt's back on top of that. Like, this women's division is stacked. It's well used. The way they composed the Owen tournament has been great. There are stories all throughout the division. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. And if you're on a pre-show match with two women who are not involved in a title situation, and they come to blows and the people pop for it, you've got it. You're doing it. You see that with the dudes all the time? Now we're doing it properly here. I'm telling you, this Statlander heel turn is going to mean great things for her. She's got to stay healthy. Gotta watch those knees, Chris. Because this is going to be magic for I can taste it. Then we had the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament Quarterfinal. Mariah May defeated Saraya. Oh, I didn't even talk about the Stardom Women. The Stardom Women were fine, by the way. It was, look, Tom and Momo, it was fine. Good little performance. These are two stalwarts from Stardom. I would have expected, especially when they were wrestling just themselves, maybe a little more of a showcase, go a little harder, pull out those acrobatics, these exceptional moves that define who they are. They were fine, don't get me wrong. Guess maybe I was expecting a little more shine. That's why on my preview last week I was saying, there should be just a showcase match for the friggin' high speed division. Get the high speed girls in a trios match and just let them tear the house down because they can. Anyway, back to Mariah May and Saraya. Look, I talked about Mariah earlier. I don't need to reiterate everything. She defeated Saraya. Look, it was fine. It was fine. I kind of feel like Mariah was working to Saraya's level, if that makes sense, which is all to her credit and shows how skilled she is as a pro wrestler if she can adjust what she's doing to accommodate her opponent who might not be up to snuff. So that was fine. And look, this is where we're at in the Owen Cup tournament right now. We might as well break this down real quickly. In the women's side, I believe this Wednesday we're getting Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander in the semifinals, and Hikaru Shida versus Mariah May in the other side of the brackets. Probably be put on Collision or something like that. Semifinals are coming up July 10. That's next week. So, not the semifinals, the finals. That's next week. So, hang on to your hats, folks. Then on the men's side of things, we have Pac and Bryan Danielson. That's happening on Dynamite this week. And then we have Jay White, who will be facing off against either Jeff Jarrett or the wild card, aka Hangman Adam Page. And I guess we're getting Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page for the finals. And that's just fine by me. That's just fine by me. And then finally we had Mystico and the Lucha Brothers defeating the LIJ trio of Hiromu Takahashi, Yota Tsuji, and Titan. This was a blast. This was a tremendous match. Lucha Bros, of course, and Mystico being in a team together is kind of historic because of the CMLL AAA history. Even though the Lucha Bros aren't officially AAA anymore, they still have the AAA stench. So that was a big deal, and I feel like the audience understood it because they were going, holy shit, or either that or just like the Lucha Bros and Mystico and the LIJ guys, which is tremendous in and about itself. But I think this match rekindled my appreciation for the Lucha Brothers as a great tag team. And I think we hadn't seen it in a while because, look, there's been injuries and whatnot. That's not just a question of they're not being booked. Ray Phoenix has been injured and whatnot. But as a tag team, these guys are so good. They're so good. And they legitimately lit up the place. Everyone worked hard in this match. Even Mystico. Where I was pondering last week, Mystico on a pre-show is going to come out and he's going to shrug his shoulders and he's going to go, all right, you guys go. But no, he worked hard too. He took Hiromu's sunset bomb to the floor, which Hiromu lands like once out of every 6 times. And I'm like, I had it in my notes. I wrote it down. It's like Mystico is bumping with an exclamation mark. Because he could have been just like, no, man. I just celebrated my 20-year anniversary just about a week ago. I'm not doing this on a pre-show. And overall, this pre-show was so good. This pre-show was so friggin' good that if you were like wondering whether you should buy the show or not, I feel like this did what a pre-show should do. Get you excited for the rest of the show. Because when this was going on, these matches, I was just rubbing my hands together. Can you imagine what the main card is going to be like? Like, it was a great show from top to bottom. And the pre-show was tremendous. And like I said, Forbidden Door, I said it was a great show. Let me temper that just a bit. I thought it was a very good show. I thought it was a very, very good professional wrestling show that had some tremendous matches on it. If you were to look, you absolutely have to watch Swerve versus Will Ospreay. I think that's a given. Check out Mercedes Moné and Stephanie Vaquer, which is I didn't even talk about the crowd turning on Mercedes, right? I don't think I did. Anyway, too late now. But check out that match. And Zack Sabre Jr. versus Orange Cassidy. Check out the whole show if you want. You know, you'll enjoy the entire show. It's a far cry from being a bad show, but you're going to enjoy it. I promise. All right, folks, we're going to wrap this one up by previewing WWE Money in the Bank 2024. That's happening this weekend, July 6, 2024, from Toronto, Ontario, at the Scotiabank Arena. It's the big show that people get briefcases and then try to cash them in, and somehow people cash them in, and then people say, wow, they're such a great champion, when they never really wrestled for the title. I don't know how to feel about this stuff. I think my thoughts are very quick, very succinct when it comes to this. This is what the card looks like. Trios match, or a 6-man tag. Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton taking on the Bootleg Bloodline. Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu, who I believe will be doing... Is this going to be his WWE debut match, I believe? And Tonga Loa, or whatever... Tonga, right, it's Tonga Loa, is going to be at ringside. I don't know. Everyone's keeping their seat warm for Roman, and then Roman's going to come back, and he's going to reform the bloodline with Paul Heyman. Look, credit where credit is due. I saw the angle on SmackDown where the bootleg bloodline attacked Paul Heyman, and that was very good. So, I mean, at this point, we all see it coming. Roman's going to come back. He's going to reform the bloodline with the Usos and Paul, and they're going to be super baby faces. And they're going to be baby faces until The Rock comes back. Or, I don't know, but that's clearly the plan. I wouldn't be surprised if all this happens at WrestleMania, or they're going to do a War Games, right? They're going to do this in time for War Games, for the Survivor Series, right? Because they don't do the Survivor matches anymore. They do the War Games. So I don't know who wins here. Cody and his boys, I guess. Unless we debut Tala Tonga, right? Hikuleo's going to debut soon, right? Gonna have Tala Tonga get involved here. This just smacks of interference and bullshit. So I don't know. I'm already annoyed by this match. Intercontinental title, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker's getting a lot of love, a lot of push. People are really into him. They're saying he's going to be the next big thing. This is interesting because even up to a year ago, I was being told that Austin Theory was going to be the next big thing. You know, these astute WWE fans. But it's like I always say. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much, it doesn't matter how much of a worker a guy is. It doesn't matter how good he is in the ring. If the company decides to push that person and put him over, that's going to be the thing, and that's what's going to happen. And fans are going to accept it, and they're just going to go clap, 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 and yes, we accept this person as the next top guy. That's how it goes. That's how it's gone for years in WWE. Why is it going to? Do you really think it's going to change with Paul Levesque? Paul Levesque, who said, you know, we don't make, you know, we're not a sports show. We're a movie about a sports show. We're a movie about a sport, something like that. You know, it's like, this is not going to change. Sami versus Braun. Look, Braun is in a great, capable hands with Sami Zayn here. Seasoned veteran, a guy who at one point in his career was one of the best top 5 wrestlers in the world. Yeah, he's absolutely in great hands with Sami Zayn. What are we doing? Could be good. Then the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which will probably be opening the show. Let's be real. Naomi versus Io Sky versus Zoe Stark versus Chelsea Green versus Lyra Valkyria versus Tiffany Stratton. There's a whole mix of women I like and women I really don't want to see. It's just, same thing. Don't get me wrong. It's the same thing with the dudes. You know, that's just what happens in these matches. It's just like, you know, I don't know. And it's a ladder match for the Money in the Bank. Wasn't last year's Money in the Bank matches, weren't they just awful? I feel like they were really bad last year. I don't see how they're going to be better this year. It's a formula. And who's going to win? Tiffany Stratton, probably. It should be. Like, if there's anyone, it can't be a babyface. You can't give this briefcase. You can't give the briefcase to baby faces. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it cheapens it, and it, you know, Big E, you remember that? That wet fart is what that ended up to be. I think Tiffany Stratton's a good pick. Who's it's Liv on Raw and Bayley, right? Over on SmackDown. And isn't Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown? There you go. That works. Take the belt off of Bayley, and she's a heel. It's fine. And again, I can't say this enough. It doesn't matter because everyone gets a turn with the belts. Everyone gets a turn. So it doesn't matter really whether Tiffany is ready or not. I think they should build her up with some proper heat. You know, they should build her up as a proper challenger for Bayley and have her beat Bayley, clean as a sheet in the ring, and then get all sorts of massive heat. But you know, what do I know? This isn't a pro wrestling show. It's a show about pro wrestling. Triple H told me. Money in the Bank ladder match for the men then. Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight versus Andrade versus Jey Uso versus Chad Gable versus Carmelo Hayes. I mean, you know. Here's my analysis. After this match, Andrade is going to go back to Twitter to vague tweet about how he's a real Latino man and how he was a real Latino man in CMLL and AAA in AEW. because he's losing this match. Who are they giving this to? Is Drew going to lose again? Like, there comes a point McIntyre has to start winning matches too, you know? They're not giving it to Carmelo Hayes, I don't think. LA Knight? Jey Uso? Failing upward Jey Uso? If there's one guy who cannot wait for Roman to come back and do the bloodline thing again, it's Jey Uso. This singles run is not working. As chat says, oh brother, this guy stinks. Chad Gable, isn't he sort of, I don't know. It's a very weird one. But the thing here's the thing, is that none of these 6 guys here whoever wins this Money in the Bank briefcase thing, none of them are going to be challenging Cody for the Universal Gold Belt. You know, none of them. They're going to go for the secondary prize. You know, Damian Priest's belt. That's what they're doing. And like I said last year after Money in the Bank, that should show you how much consideration, how important Money in the Bank is for WWE. Ergo, it isn't, because they're not even putting this in the same realm as their top title. The guys are going to challenge this for the undercard, right? For the secondary prize, for the consolation prize. Because there's no one here, not Drew McIntyre, not LA Knight, not Andrade, Jey Uso, Chad Gable, or Carmelo Hayes, who feel big time enough to come after Cody and steal the belt. No, WWE has a trajectory for the top title, the one that Cody has. I don't know what they call it anymore. And they stick to it. And they're not going to have outside forces come and screw around with it. No, whoever's winning this is challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, the consolation prize. This is what this is about. And if because we saw it last year, and we saw it the year before, no one challenged Roman. No one used their Money in the Bank to challenge Roman. They went for other titles. Because they don't want people, they don't want this stuff, this cash-in things, muddying the waters and sucking the air out of the top guy's push. That's how little they consider Money in the Bank is in this grand scheme of things. It's junk. And speaking of the consolation prize, it's going to be on the line. Damian Priest is going to be defending against Seth Rollins. I think Damian Priest retains here because I think they want to give Damian Priest a true, solid win. You know, they want to give him a true, solid win. Make him come across as a champion. And what better way than defeating former champion Seth Rollins and a guy who's been around the block, a big WWE star, you know, which is fair. Don't get me wrong. It's not as if Damian Priest's reign has been stellar. It's not as if people have been saying that it hasn't been stellar, right? They love talking about how Swerve's reign hasn't been stellar, but Damian Priest, you don't talk about that. When in fact, it has not been stellar. And an argument that I've seen is that, well, you can't compare the two because the World Heavyweight Championship is not the top prize in the company. And I'm like, aha, match, set, point. I win. Yeah, then let's stop pretending that this title is a big, meaningful title if you're like, no, this is a secondary prize. If you yourself, in your defense as to whether or not Damian Priest, we should be judgmental of his world championship run, if you say, no, but it's not really a world championship, well, okay, good. Then we're on the same page. But I have more than enough people arguing that this is a big prize and it's a big thing for Damian Priest. Well, I think his reign stinks. I think it's been bad. But we're not talking about it. Oh, but we'll drag Strickland over the coals, right? We'll have, Mark Henry on Busted Open Radio, or was it Bully Ray? I don't remember either one, telling Strickland, oh, I don't like how you've been presented on TV. It was Mark Henry. I don't like how you've been presented. I don't like how this and your reign hasn't been great. Yeah, we'll do that though. But no one's going to tell, Damian Priest, I don't like how you've been presented as world champion, because everyone knows it's a secondary title because it doesn't matter. And Damian Priest won it by cashing in like a chump. Like a Weasley chump. He didn't earn it. He cashed it in. He was sneaky. We got to stop pretending that this is the stuff of great championships. It's not. So he's going to probably win against Seth Rollins to have, a definitive win, something that he can hang his hat on, which again is fine. And we also have to stop pretending that the World Heavyweight Championship is really this meaningful title in WWE. It's meaningful. It's meaningful to those who are drinking the soup without checking if it's hot first. There you go. That's how we're going to wrap up this week's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. What a show it was. Thank God we had Forbidden Door this week, because again, there was barely any news. There was barely any stuff. I guess, Ricochet is officially done with WWE. They're expecting him in AEW. Look, we'll talk about that when that happens. I'm still keeping this at arm's length. Ricochet being Ricochet, I want to be careful, but we'll see what happens. But you know what? We're going to wrap this up for this week. Thank you everyone for watching, for joining me here, either live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or on demand. If you were here live, thank you so very much. We record live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern. Why 9 p.m.? It's 7 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. So if you want to come and join us live, join in the chat, have a good little time, well, I'd love to have you. I'm always excited to see some new faces with the good old ones that we have hanging out here. So make sure you make a date. I would love to have you on a Tuesday night. Otherwise, if you're watching this on demand on YouTube, thank you very much. A like and a subscription would be appreciated. Just like a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star review on Spotify if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application. Because the audio is out there as well. And that's, I'm all about convenience. I'm all about offering myself up to you in whatever way, shape, or form I can. That's right. That's right. I will be back on Thursday for the Dynamite review. So just in a couple of days, so we'll be back on that. We're going to be talking about the post Forbidden Door shenanigans. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. And otherwise, I'll be back on Tuesday for another Mr. Warren Hayes Show recording. There you go. So thank you all once again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.